Let me tell you something, when a nation rises with strength, innovation and determination, the world takes notice. India has shown again and again that power is not just about numbers, it's about discipline, vision, and the courage to create what others never believed possible. America, with all its might, has always seen itself as the standard of military dominance. But when India brought forward weapons that redefined technology, strategy, and raw power, America was not just impressed, it was shocked. This is not about fear, it's about respect. It's about showing the world that when you believe in your own strength, when you push past limitations, you create something unstoppable. Today, we look at 10 Indian weapons that shocked America, symbols of pride, resilience, and innovation. The Agni-V Missile is not just a piece of military hardware, it is a statement. A statement that India will not be limited, it will not be underestimated, and it will not be told what it can or cannot achieve. For decades, the world's narrative has been that high-range intercontinental ballistic missiles belong only to the so-called superpowers, countries that dictated terms, set the rules, and expected others to follow. But India broke that narrative when it developed Agni-V. This missile, with a range of over 50 kilometers, sent a shockwave across the defense corridors of America and other powerful nations. Because suddenly, India was not just a regional power anymore, it had entered the elite club of nations that could strike across continents. Now, you have to understand the mindset here. Building something like Agni-V is not just about science and engineering, it is about discipline, resilience, and the refusal to give up. It takes years of research, thousands of minds working in unison, and a vision that does not get shaken when critics laugh or doubters sneer. Many believed India would never be able to produce a missile of such caliber. They thought India would always depend on imports, always look outside for strength. But Agni-V was the answer. It told the world that India can stand on its own feet. It told the youth of India that dreams backed by action can change the balance of power. Think about the symbolism here. A missile like Agni-V is more than steel, fuel, and guidance systems. It is a mirror of determination. Every time India launches it, the world is reminded that greatness is not gifted, it is earned. America, which has always prided itself on having the most advanced systems, looked at Agni-V and realized, this is not the India of yesterday, this is a new India, bold, confident, and unafraid. And that shock was not rooted in fear alone, but in respect. Respect for the kind of effort it takes to rise from the challenges of poverty, from decades of colonial rule, from the skepticism of the outside world, and still build something that can shake the global stage. The power of Agni-V is not only in its range, but in its message. It reaches across continents, yes, but more importantly, it reaches into the hearts of millions of Indians who now know that they are capable of anything. This is how nations grow, not by borrowing strength, but by creating it. Not by waiting for others to hand them power, but by seizing it with their own hands. Every kilometer of Agni-V's range is a reminder that limits exist only until you decide to break them. You see, in life and in nations, there are always people who tell you that something is impossible. They will laugh when you try, they will doubt when you plan, and they will resist when you act. But when you finally achieve it, those same voices go silent. That's what Agni-V did. It silenced the doubt. It proved that with focus, training, and relentless execution, India could reach heights once thought untouchable. This is the weapon that forced even the strongest militaries in the world to rethink their assumptions. It shocked America because it showed that India had crossed the line between potential and power, between hope and reality. Agni-V is not just a missile, it is a lesson that strength comes to those who earn it, not those who wait for it. And India earned it with sweat, with vision, and with unshakable will. The story of INS Arihant is the story of silence, patience, and strength that doesn't need to announce itself. In warfare, the loudest weapon is not always the most dangerous. The silent one is. And that is what shocked America and the rest of the world when India unveiled its first indigenously built nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. A country that was once told it could never achieve such feats had now mastered the technology that only a handful of nations in history had ever dared to develop. INS Arihant was not just a submarine, it was a declaration that India was no longer just playing defense. It was building the kind of power that ensures no enemy dares to test it. You must understand, creating a nuclear submarine is one of the hardest achievements in military technology. It requires precision engineering, years of trials, absolute secrecy, and the courage to keep moving forward even when success looks impossible. Many believed India was not ready for this kind of challenge. They thought it would take forever, that India would remain dependent on others. But the very existence of INS Arihant silenced all those doubts. It rose from the depths as proof that India could protect itself on land, in the skies, and now beneath the oceans. What makes this submarine so powerful is not just its nuclear capability, but its invisibility. It is built to stay hidden, to patrol the vast ocean depths where no one can see it, and yet everyone knows it is there. That is the strength of deterrence. When your enemies know that somewhere, deep below the waves, a force like Arihant is watching, they think twice before making a move. That is how true strength works. Not always by attacking, but by preventing attacks in the first place. America was shocked not just because India built this submarine, but because of what it meant. India now had a credible second strike capability. In other words, no one could threaten it with nuclear blackmail anymore, because India could respond with equal force from the sea, undetected, unstoppable. Think about the symbolism here. Arihant means slayer of enemies, and that name was not chosen lightly. It represents the spirit of a nation that has endured challenges, that has been underestimated, but that rises in silence with power strong enough to shake the oceans. When this submarine was completed, it wasn't just about military might, it was about national pride. It was about showing the youth of India that no dream is too big, no challenge too great, no technology too advanced to achieve. Life works the same way. The most powerful victories are often the quiet ones. You don't always have to shout about your goals or brag about your strength. Sometimes the greatest power is in moving silently, working consistently, and then revealing what you've built when no one expects it. That is what INS Arihant teaches us. The world did not see it coming. America did not expect it so soon, but when it appeared there was nothing left to say. Arihant also teaches the power of self-reliance. For decades, India depended on other nations for submarines and advanced weaponry, but with Arihant it broke the chain of dependency. It showed that if you want true freedom, you must build your own strength. Because real independence is not just about waving a flag, it's about knowing that no one controls your security, your future, or your destiny. When INS Arihant slipped into the waters, it carried not only weapons, but the dreams of 1 billion people. It symbolized courage, resilience, and determination, and that is why America was shocked. Not because India wanted to dominate, but because India proved it could never again be dominated. The Tejas Fighter Jet is not just an aircraft, it is a story of grit, persistence, and a nation's refusal to bow down to doubt. For decades, people said India could never build its own modern fighter jet. They said it lacked the technology, the experience, the resources. They believed India would always have to import, always be dependent, always remain a follower in the skies. But Tejas changed that. Tejas became the living proof that when a country sets its mind to a mission, when it refuses to accept impossible as an answer, it can soar higher than anyone ever imagined. The creation of Tejas was not easy. It faced delays, criticism, and endless skepticism. The project began in the 1980s, and for years it was attacked as a waste of time. Many thought it would never see the light of day. But here is the truth. Real achievements don't come quickly, and true victories take time. Tejas was the product of resilience, of thousands of scientists and engineers working day and night, of a vision that refused to die. And when it finally flew, when it proved itself in the skies, it silenced every critic who ever doubted India's ability to create world-class technology. Tejas is not just a machine of metal and fire. It is a message to every Indian and to the entire world that dreams backed by determination can take flight. The fighter jet represents independence, it represents confidence, it represents the ability to stand tall and say, "We do not need to borrow wings, we have built our own." America was shocked because it never expected India to deliver something so advanced, so capable, and so homegrown. For them, it was not just about the jet, it was about the mindset behind it. The mindset that no longer accepts dependency as normal, the mindset that dares to lead instead of follow. When you see Tejas cut through the skies, you are not just watching a fighter jet, you are watching history being rewritten. You are watching the rise of a nation that refuses to let limitations hold it down. That is the power of determination. Tejas is small, agile, and fierce, just like the spirit of a people who have fought against every obstacle and still kept moving forward. It stands as a reminder that size does not define strength, and beginnings do not define destiny. This is how success works. People will doubt you, they will laugh when you start small, they will try to convince you that it is easier to buy, easier to borrow, easier to quit. But when you persist, when you keep pushing, when you refuse to accept defeat, one day you will soar. Tejas teaches that lesson. It teaches that victory belongs not to the loudest, but to the most determined. For India, Tejas is more than a weapon. It is a teacher. It shows the value of patience, the importance of vision, and the rewards of perseverance. It tells every young mind that no matter how long the journey, if you keep fighting, if you keep building, your wings will eventually carry you higher than the world ever thought possible. That is why America was shocked. Not because Tejas is just another jet, but because Tejas symbolizes a nation that refuses to be underestimated. The BrahMos missile is not just a weapon, it is a symbol of what happens when vision, innovation, and execution come together. The world talks about speed, about precision, about power, but India showed all of it at once with BrahMos. This supersonic cruise missile, traveling at nearly 3 times the speed of sound, stunned America and the rest of the world because it was something no one expected India to master so quickly and so effectively. For decades, only a handful of nations controlled the skies with advanced missile systems. But when BrahMos appeared, it was a statement. India was no longer following in the shadows. It was running at the front, and it was running fast. You must understand the significance of this. A missile like BrahMos is not just about hitting a target. It is about speed that leaves the enemy no time to react. It is about precision that does not miss. It is about technology that combines strength with intelligence, and what makes it even more remarkable is that India was told again and again that such weapons were out of reach. Critics said it was impossible, too ambitious, too advanced. But BrahMos is proof that when you believe in your capabilities and you invest in your vision, you can build something that shocks even the most powerful. America was surprised not just because BrahMos was fast, but because it was reliable. Most countries spend decades trying to achieve what India achieved in partnership with Russia, yet India took that collaboration and pushed it further, made it sharper, made it unstoppable. This missile became the fastest operational cruise missile in the world. Think about that for a moment. Out of all the nations, out of all the militaries, it was India that set that benchmark. That is the power of ambition fueled by hard work. And BrahMos is not just about technology, it is about mindset. It teaches that when you are told something is impossible, you don't accept it. You fight, you innovate, you break through barriers. That is how success works in life as well. The enemy of progress is doubt. The engine of progress is belief backed by action. BrahMos carries that lesson in every launch. It shows the world that India is not afraid to aim high and strike with precision. The speed of BrahMos is not only physical, it is symbolic. It represents the speed of India's growth, the speed of its innovation, the speed of its transformation into a nation that others must respect. When you see BrahMos cut through the skies, you are not just seeing a missile, you are seeing the spirit of 1 billion people who refuse to wait, who refuse to settle, who refuse to be left behind. This is what shocked America the most. Not the steel, not the fire, but the determination, because weapons like this are born not just from factories, but from willpower, from the courage to say, we will not be dependent, we will build our own path. That is what true strength looks like. The BrahMos missile is a reminder that if you move with speed, with precision, and with purpose, nothing can stop you. BrahMos is more than a missile, it is a teacher of life. It tells us to be fast, to be sharp, to strike with confidence. It tells us that when you build with vision, the world takes notice, and that is why America was shocked. Because India didn't just build a weapon, it built proof that it can lead the future. The ballistic missile defense system is one of the greatest demonstrations of India's strength, resilience, and vision. To the outside world, it was unthinkable. For decades, only a few powerful nations were believed to have the technology to defend against ballistic missile attacks. America, Russia, and a handful of others held this monopoly, and they believed they would always be untouchable. But India shattered that belief when it developed its own missile defense shield. This was not just about building weapons, it was about protecting a billion lives with an invisible wall of power. That is why America was shocked. Because India, once doubted, once underestimated, had achieved what few thought possible, the ability to stop an enemy's missile in mid-air before it ever touched Indian soil. This system represents discipline and preparation at the highest level. A ballistic missile travels at incredible speeds, sometimes faster than a bullet. To intercept it requires intelligence, coordination, and technology working in perfect unison. It requires radar that can see beyond the horizon, computers that can calculate trajectories in seconds, and interceptors that can strike with absolute precision, and India built this. Piece by piece, test by test, failure after failure, success after success, India forged its shield. This was not handed to them, this was earned through decades of persistence. What makes this achievement so powerful is not only the technology, but the message behind it. India told the world, we will not wait for others to protect us. We will not depend on anyone else for our survival. We will build our own shield. That is the mindset of independence. That is the mindset of strength. Because in life, just as in defense, no one is going to save you. You must be prepared to save yourself. America's shock came from respect. They understood what it meant. A working ballistic missile defense system does not just protect a country. It changes the entire balance of power. It forces enemies to think twice, to hesitate, to realize that their threats carry no guarantee of success. That hesitation is victory in itself, because true strength is not just in attacking, it is in preventing the attack from ever happening. India had reached that level, and the world had no choice but to acknowledge it. Think about the determination it takes to build something like this. Each failure could have been a reason to stop. Each obstacle could have been an excuse to quit. But India didn't stop, it kept going. That is the greatest lesson of the shield. It is built not only from steel and circuits, but from persistence, from the courage to keep fighting when the odds are against you, from the vision to see beyond today and prepare for tomorrow. The ballistic missile defense system is not just a piece of military hardware, it is a teacher of discipline. It shows that success comes to those who prepare. It shows that you cannot control the threats that come your way, but you can control your readiness to face them. And when you are ready, when your shield is strong, nothing can break you. That is why America was shocked. Because India showed the world that it was no longer vulnerable, no longer defenseless, no longer dependent. It had built its own protection, its own shield, its own future. And that shield is not only for missiles. It is a symbol of resilience of a nation that refuses to bow, that refuses to be weak, that refuses to be controlled. When you look at the Agni-V Missile, you see the firepower of vision. When you look at INS Arihant, you see the silent strength that protects without noise. When you look at the Tejas Fighter Jet, you see the determination to rise above doubt and fly on your own wings. When you look at the BrahMos missile, you see the unstoppable speed of ambition. And when you look at the ballistic missile defense system, you see the shield of preparation that turns vulnerability into confidence. Each of these achievements is more than a weapon. They are symbols of a nation that refuses to stay down, refuses to be underestimated, and refuses to let others dictate its destiny. What shocked America was not only the steel, the fire, or the technology. What shocked America was the spirit behind them, the discipline, the resilience, the courage, and the vision of India. A nation that once was held back by history now stands tall because it chose not to wait for permission to be powerful. It built its own strength, and that is the greatest lesson these weapons teach us. In life, just like in defense, no one will hand you power, no one will give you respect. You must earn it, you must build it. You must fight for it. India did exactly that, and in doing so, it showed the world that greatness is not inherited, it is forged. And that is why today, when these weapons rise, they do not just shock America. They inspire the world.